an author, an entrepreneur, somebody who can't sit their ass down, and we love them kind of people. Please welcome Dwight Allen O'Neal. Dwight Allen O'Neal, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. How are you, Samson? Thank you so much for having me on today.
Where are you from, and what were some of your early childhood experiences like that led to you understanding what your sexuality is?
I'm from Arkansas, and yeah, whew, that's a lot. I mean, I've known that I was attracted to the same sex since I was like three. So
Three.
like, I've known for a very long time. Um, I had a boyfriend at three who became my husband at four. We got married in front of a tree,
Hold
and
on, wait, wait, whoa, whoa, because this is moving real fast. Tell us about that part.
I mean, early on, like, me and my child, as I out him, I don't know, is it outing at the age? Whatever. We had the same babysitter. And basically it was my boyfriend. I don't remember how that came about, but I know that we definitely were a couple. And I know that we ended up getting married in front of a tree with our dogs at four. And he gave me a ring pop. And we were together until I was like seven. And even then, like, I took on the more feminine, you know, personality traits and characteristics. And he definitely took on the more like masculine roles. Like I even remember like when I would stay at his like spend the night at his house like for the weekend, whatever. When his mom was cooking dinner, he would want me to hang out in the kitchen with her. So then we had dinner. He would pretend like I prepared the meal. Like it was
Hold on, I gotta ask the next important question.
what?
Did you make a misplate?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely I took on more of the stereotypical, feminine characteristics of the relationship. So yeah, so like I've always and I also remember too, because we end up breaking up at like seven when he discovered that homosexuality was a sin. Like I remember
Oh,
he telling
really?
yeah, and what was crazy about it is my family was I grew up like in the church. His family didn't go to church as much as my family did. So when he came back and told me that being gay was wrong, which I didn't know we were gay, I just knew I was in love. I was like, no, like you're just supposed to be married. Like you're supposed to be married. Like that's what is supposed to happen. Like so this isn't wrong. And I said, and my family goes to church more than your family, so I would be the one to know if it's wrong or not. Like you would know this information. It's kind of what I said to him. And then I went back and asked a family member that confirmed what he had said was true. And that was like our end. And he broke up with me and dated this little girl named Latoya. Never forget her. Yeah. And we ended up moving away. Because at this time we lived in a really, really small town. We were in Little Rock. But we lived in a small town of Wilmer in Monticello, Arkansas. And so yeah, we broke up and then I saw him again when I was 12 and I remember I was dancing and I've always been more feminine and the boys were like making fun of me and I remember him like grabbing me by my arm and taking me outside and was like, "Why do you act like that? Like why do you act like a girl? Like you need to stop. Like they're making fun of you. They're going to beat you up and I'm going to have to fight them." And I'm like, "You know why I act like this. You made me like this." And I remember saying that to him. And that was our last interaction, like our very last interaction. But yeah, like I've always been the way that I am. I've gone through stages where I want to be more masculine or butch it up, and I can't. Like I just have this softer essence about me.
You just brought up a couple things that kind of make me curious. One of them is as at 7 years old to have somebody come to you and express to you that this part of yourself is this bad thing, right? And you continue being exactly who you are. How do you process that as you move through life?
I went through this stage of like hating myself. Like
Yeah.
every night before I would pray for God to take this away from me. Like I would pray the gay away. And even when, he grabbed me at that dance, Like I wasn't entertaining boys or anything like that. Like at that point, I still was like struggling with who I was, and I just had feminine traits, which is why they were picking on me. But like after I had learned, like, oh, this is wrong. Like I went through this stage of hating myself. I went through this stage of wanting God to change me. And I also was heartbroken. I mean, granted, I was a kid, but I really did love that person. And it was odd for, this person that I thought was my little boyfriend, my little husband, to then tell me that not only is this wrong, but we weren't even friends after that, like cut me off completely. So I went through this stage of like hating myself up until like moving to New York because I just felt that part of me was wrong.
That was later in your life.
Yeah, that was later in my life. So I moved to New York when I was 18.
For you at 18 in New York, what does that look like?
Ooh, I honestly thought that I was gonna move away and never go home. Like I had honestly mentally prepared myself that I was going to just move away, start over, have a whole new life, and those that basically not even tell my family about it, just be a whole new person. But I'm such a mama's boy. I'm like, I can't cut myself off from my mom. Like, there is no world that can exist without me and my mother having closeness. So then I was like, well, I'll just be in the closet for a while. But I was forced out of the closet by my cousin because she had found out that I was gay through somebody I went to high school with that was gay.
Okay, so
Um,
how old were you then?
I was 19. I was 19. So I had joined oh God, this is I don't think I ever said this publicly. So I forgot Theta F. So they have like the gay sororities. You know this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I pledged AKA. And one of my I guess sorority frat brothers. What do we call? I guess my soror. Yeah, my soror. Actually went to high school together, and that's when he found out like I was gay because we both were, like had pledged, and I was like, oh shoot, you gay too, and so I had moved to New York. So I literally was like active with them maybe a month before leaving. So like my junior year of high school, I began to explore my sexuality a little bit. I was talking to an older guy. I would travel back and forth to New York to model. So like I was gradually beginning to embrace the lifestyle. And so long story short, when I moved away, my cousin had ended up moving to Little Rock and they went to college together. And of course, she probably is always in the back of her mind thought I might be gay. So she just asked him, "Do you know Dwight O'Neal?" He was like, "Yes, bitch, that's my soror. He live in New York now. We so proud of her, blah, 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 blah." And she was like, "Whoa, that's my cousin." So when I came home for summer break, she just asked me, like flat out, she was like, "Are you gay?" And I decided to be honest with her. And then I remember her saying, "Well, have you told your mom yet?" I said, "No, I haven't told anybody in the family. Like, you're the only person I'm sharing this with." And she's like, "I think you need to tell your mom." And I'm like, "Why?" And she was like, "I think she'd want to know this part of you." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to tell her." She said, "Well, I'm giving you to the end of the summer to tell her. And if you don't, I'm going to tell her for you." And
Wow.
I'm like, you not. I was like, I don't need your help. So like, it forced me to like tell my mom, and that's the reason why I like came out to my mother about my sexuality. So this is why I also think God has a fierce sense of humor, because I find it ironic that so my dad never met him, but I have an uncle that passed away before I was born. Um, we don't know how, I don't know for sure how he passed, but from what I've gathered, I think he was positive.
Okay.
And they like disowned him, cut him out the family. And I just find it ironic that they did all this to my uncle and then my daddy got a gay son. Like I'm just like, that's karma on you. It's just, interesting in that sense. So like growing up, my dad didn't let me wear shorts. I wasn't allowed to like, my mom wasn't allowed to teach me to cook. Anything that was typical things that a woman may do, again, stereotypes, y'all, in the South, I wasn't allowed to do.
Do you think they did that because they did notice?
My dad, yeah, my dad, but my mom, no. But my dad always had this fear, I think, of me being queer.
How has his relationship with that been?
Now we're in a much better place. We don't really talk about my sexuality, but he's aware of it.
Do you feel incomplete that you cannot just openly express all of you to your
No,
family?
not really, actually. I mean, I feel like and as my dad's gotten older and he's dealing with some health issues, I know he's dealing with a lot of guilt as far as the way our relationship is. Like, I think my dad wishes we had a relationship like, you know, Bill Cosby had with his kids on the Cosby Show. And I'm like, or how Uncle Phil was with his kids. And I'm like, we will never have that relationship, unfortunately, because you didn't build that foundation. That foundation that we're seeing on that show, it's not the same foundation we have. However, considering what we have gone through in life, I think we're an amazing place because most children like myself would probably not have a relationship with you at all. So for that, I am able to have a relationship with you and I am able to like forgive and forget. Like, I think that we're in an amazing place. And my dad will call me sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning crying about like, things that happened when I was a kid, or how he wasn't there. Like, my dad was always there financially, but like emotionally, and I think because my daddy didn't like me because he knew I was gonna be gay. And that's
Mhm.
the first time I verbalized that. But like, my dad did not like me because I think I was a reminder of what he did to his brother, is what I've learned as I've become an adult, that it was a guilt thing, which is why, again, I think God has a fierce sense of humor. But yeah, it's just that's a whole nother subject that we it ain't enough hours in a day to unpack that.
How do you find wholeness in that?
So oftentimes we hold people accountable for things that they never learned. Like, my father, it was my father fathered me the best that he could and based on the example that he received. My father wasn't raised by his parents. His grandmother raised him. His cousins, they were all raised like brothers and sisters. So a lot of my uncles and aunties aren't really uncles and aunties. They actually cousins, but they were raised like brothers and sisters. So if I look at the blueprint that my grandparents set for my father loved me to the best of his ability. And
Mhm.
once I accepted that he loved me the most that he knew how, it allowed me to forgive and move forward. And it allowed for me to show up in the world better because I want to ensure that if or when I have children, that I love them not just to the best of what I've learned, but beyond what I learned from my parents, from like things I've read, from like, things I've done to improve myself as a human to show up so that so that when I am older, my kids actually want to be around me, or my kids don't want to just throw me in a nursing home. Like, and I look at like my father's life now, and not to like throw him under a bus, but I think a lot of my dad's situation or the state that he's in, he's holding on to a lot of guilt because he feels like this has happened to me because I wasn't the best husband to my ex-wife or I wasn't the best father to my children. And I know he's dealing with that, which is why he called me 4 o'clock in the morning some days, like crying and apologizing for like, what he did in the past. And then my response to him is, Daddy, like, I have forgiven you and I love you. Like, that's over and done with. That's the past. Like, let's just work on our future. I wish my dad protected me more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I didn't understand what gay meant. I just knew that I liked boys and I knew I was feminine, and I felt like I had no one to protect me. And the person that did protect me was my older sister because she saw it. And like, I remember her forcing me to play like t-ball and baseball, all these sports. And she said she was doing those things like so that I could hide in plain sight and not be the eyeball I picked on. But when I played baseball, I literally go up to swing the bat and my whole team be like, long live the queen. They would call me the strikeout queen because, I would never get a ball and I've always been feminine. So like, I'm like, as I'm an adult now, me and her like, sit around and laugh and talk about our childhood. I'm like, you set me up for failure too. I said, you thought you were helping me, and I got bullied even more by playing baseball. Like
You didn't have a little boyfriend on the baseball team.
after me and Brandon broke up, I done said this man's name. Lord have mercy. But
I'm not gonna edit it out either. Hi,
I don't even
Brandon.
know where he is now. But after that, I didn't deal with guys again until I was in my teens, and I had like when I was like traveling to New York for work. But literally every day I was like, God, I don't want to be like this. Like, take this away from me. Please take this away from me. I don't want to go to hell. Like, take this away from me.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't have boyfriends. Any friends that I had that were boys, I was never attracted to them. Any boys I thought were cute at school, I stayed away from them. Like I literally went through this, just this self-hatred. Even when my older sister had my nephew, I remember not wanting to be around him because I was afraid this spirit was gonna like leave me going to this baby. So like it
You
was
really thought that?
I really did. I thought it just it broke me. Like getting out of Arkansas, going to New York saved my life. And I will never forget Joseph Walker Hoover, who was a little boy on. I remember his mom went on Oprah, and he hung himself. I think he was like 12. And I remember watching this, and I sat on the couch and I cried for hours because I understood what he was dealing with. I understood wanting to take your own life because you were soft or because you were different. And, it broke my heart. And I remember when I wrote my first book, I actually dedicated to him. And I reached out to his mom. I wanted to send it to her. And I found out she died of cancer the year prior. And I wanted her to know how like much her story being an Oprah impacted me specifically with her son and why I do the work that I do. And then I'm like, oh my God, this lady passed away. I guess just share this information with her. Like, and then that broke me. But I didn't like start loving myself until I was gone, like in New York, and I had been in New York for a while. That I was finally like, okay, I love this person that I am. This is who I am, and I accept it. Because I went through the whole stage of even when dating guys, let me butch it up, because the guys I like don't like them guys. And I don't know how to butch it up. I'm not that great of an actor. Like I can butch it up for maybe 60 seconds and then this is what you get. So I went through that whole thing. Like it was a long journey of self-love. And I remember meeting people like back and they're like, oh, he's so confident. He's so this. I'm like, child, I'm not confident. This is a front. Like, this is not real. And I look back on how I was then too, and I'm like, oh, I acted that way because I didn't fully love myself. I was shallow in this area of my life because I didn't love Dwight completely whole. I drowned myself in work because I didn't, it forced me not to deal with my issues. And even in school growing up, I was smart in school because I put all my energy into my school books, into studying to like hide the fact that I was gay.
How does a feminine black gay man find his strength? Like that takes a lot of courage to carry those identities. So like how do you do it?
Rediscovering God.
Really?
Yeah. I remember when I was 13, no, 14, and I used to teach children's church. Like I was heavily into church because I was struggling with my sexuality. I'm like, God, save me, save me. And I remember my pastor sat me down and basically threatened to take me out of the choir and threatened to remove me from teaching children's church because he had heard rumors that I was gay. And I'm like, what rumors have you heard? First off, I'm not sexually active. I'm 14 years old. If anything, I'm feminine energy. Like, what rumors? It's people. He said, well, they say they've seen a gay spirit on you. Y'all see that I'm fish. Okay, I'm a queen. That's what it is. Yeah, like, but we not talking about, the church members who's shacking and doing all these other sinful things, but like this 14-year-old kid who is honestly struggling with his sexuality, praying every day for God to save me. And I remember when he came to me, I thought to myself, thank God he's coming to me. He's going to tell me the secret of how to cure this. And his response was, are you gay? Because if you are, I'm going to have to take you out of children's church. I'm going to take you out of the choir. Like, take these things that I'm passionate about from me. And so I lied. I was like, no, I'm not. He goes, good. I didn't think so. And I was crushed. And I'm like, I'm on this battle, like fighting alone, like trying to deal with this spirit alone. And I I did not love me. And so, and then I started feeling like, well, God probably doesn't love me. So then when I end up moving to New York, I found myself not going to church because I felt like every church was like that. So I'm like, okay, now I'm deciding to live in my truth. So I can't go to church because I'm living in my truth. So I'm just going to be this out gay man and not go to church. And so later in life, I was put into a situation. I was drugged, kidnapped, and raped on December the 26th, 2005. And it forced me to return to God because the only person that I felt could help me in that moment was God. So I began to pray more and I began to get back into my word. And then I began to understand that the relationship that they said existed back home in church was not the God that created me, the God that loves all people. And I had to go out on my own and reconnect with God. And then that eventually led me to a place of loving Dwight.
But what specific thing did you hear that let you know you're good?
It wasn't anything I heard, it was how I began to view myself. I began to like little insecurities that I had about myself just stopped bothering me. Like it didn't bother me anymore, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't bothered by the fact that I hold my hand like this, or I wasn't bothered that when I walk, I have a strut. Although some people like to pick on me about it, Samson. I wasn't bothered by those things anymore, whereas I used to honestly be so bothered by those things. Like I would try to walk differently, I would try to speak differently, I would try to adjust my mannerisms, like, and I wasn't bothered by those things anymore. I was just like, and over time, it just became like, that's just, it's who I am, it's a part of me. Then I had to accept the fact that, okay, most men that you are attracted to are not attracted to men like you. So then I went through the stage of like, well, I don't have to date nobody. You know, it's just me. I'm fine, whatever. So then once I got over that, then I began to attract men. I'm like, oh, so there are men out there that appreciate the softer side of Sears, you know? So it was when you begin to love yourself, it's so true that your entire world will change. You will start attracting things that are going to elevate you and things that are good for you versus when you're going through stages of not loving yourself, you're attracting things that are harmful for you in your existence.
In the gay community, we can be horrible to each other. And I think feminine gay men get it the worst. So how do you deal with it navigating our community?
Ooh, baby. Well, for one reason, we act that way because it's a lot of self-love issues that are happening. And we loved ourselves. If we had self-love across the board, we wouldn't have half the problems that we have in the world, period. Like, it's just such a lack of self-love. And so many people, like people say, love yourself, but some people don't know how to love themselves. And I ask this question to myself often, other people, like, you know, how do we expect people to treat us better than we treat ourselves? Like, it's not fair for me to hold you accountable of treating me a specific type of way when I treat myself like shit. So
Yeah.
like, if I'm constantly putting myself down, constantly speaking curses upon myself, how can I expect for a stranger to treat me better? No, treat me the way I'm going to treat myself. So I need to start doing things that are improving myself and pouring love into me. And then I can hold people accountable of treating me differently. But if I'm not treating myself like I'm valued or worth something, I can't expect other people to do that. And within our community, like it's so much that it's such a lack of self-love that takes place from even how we talk to ourselves, things we're putting in our bodies. Like it's just, it's just a lot that's happening there, and it's very unfortunate. And a lot of that comes from them coming from homes where they felt like they weren't loved because they were different. Like hurt people really do hurt people. So I think that's where a lot of our issues come from within our community. And when I navigate in our community, one thing that I try to do is surround myself with people that have similar backgrounds to me than me, or similar backgrounds as me, because it makes it a little easier for us to connect. And then the other level is I try to surround myself with people that have similar moral values that I have, because that will help me avoid a lot of the toxic things that happen. Like I try to surround myself with people that are similar to me. Like I remember going, my grandmother used to say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And I really am mindful as far as where I'm putting my energy, because what's the sign? Like darkness, uh, light can't go into darkness and come out light, but darkness can go into light and come out bright, basically. So yeah, you can't be light and hope and go into a dark hole and think you're going to come out bright. That's not how it works. So just be really mindful as the company you keep.
How do you handle the dating part?
Ooh, child. So dating is still something that I am. So the last guy I was dating, I remember I told him that every relationship I've ever been in has been a failure. And he got so upset that I said that. He goes, no, you learn things. I said, am I with those people? No. Then I failed at it. I did. Ultimately, I failed at it. So for me, it's really, first off, I feel that whoever you're with, like for me, like has to be a friendship. Because one thing I've learned about myself is in my past, I would take a lot of things off friends that I would never like take a part. Like first time a partner do something wrong, oh, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. But like I have friends that do things wrong, and I forgive them, and I'm like, oh, that's my friend. We're gonna get through this. But I wasn't giving that same grace to people I was dating. When in actuality, they should probably get the grace more in a friend, because that's an intimate relationship. So you would think that you be more understanding. So once I removed that layer, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm not dating, the person isn't necessarily perfect, but they should be perfect for you.
Right.
And it's finding someone that's compatible for you. So for me, one thing I'm doing differently is a friendship is so important. Like I want to have a friendship basis there. Also, someone that, they're going to love me when I'm at my best, but also at my worst. Like, believe it or not, I'm not perfect. And I know that's hard to grasp for, many of you out there right now, but I'm not perfect. And like finding somebody that, because I feel like I would date people and I would accept their flaws, but the minute I have a flaw, it's a problem.
Right.
So, and then also, I have to date someone that can accept my feminine ways. Like, this is who I am. Like, I am going to be the softer side of Sears. I like to be more submissive in my relationship because I'm a boss when it comes to my business. So when I'm at home, I feel like I don't want to be the boss. I enjoy submitting to a partner. And yeah, like I just finding someone that's open to those things is definitely going to be important.
How do we look at that as a weakness in our community?
I don't look at it as a weakness. I look at it as strength. That's like I did a Joe, shouts out to Joe Exclusive. They did like a talk back. It was like maybe like a couple months ago. And I ended up being the person to walk around the mic. It was so much fun. And they asked the question like how many bottoms it was in the room. And only me and somebody else raised their hand. And then somebody on the panel was like, y'all in here lying. Like, why are y'all not being honest about it? And then I said, I'm not passing the mic, but what is the issue? Like, why are y'all so ashamed to say what you are? And I said, I know for a fact some of y'all are bottoms, because I also was the person that handed out the armband because it was a specific color for what your position was. And only me and one other person actually wore the bottom little armband. And it was so many people I was giving bracelets to, they were like, give me the first one. Or give me the I'm like, but You have to think about it. So that's not, I don't believe that you're actually what you're saying you are. But I find that in our community, like if you say you're a bottom or say you're submissive, people look at that as weakness. I think it's empowering to say who you are and live comfortably in that. Like, what's the problem with that? I don't understand. I think it takes a strong man to bend over and
Pick something up off the floor.
yes, it's not for the weak, you know? So it's like, how is this considered a weak thing?
Can more masculine men learn from more feminine men?
Oh, what can more masculine men learn from more feminine men? Oh my gosh. That being feminine is not a choice. Some people are just naturally feminine. Like I I get I used to get tired of hearing people say, "Why don't you act different?" or "Act why don't you act like a dude?" Like that's just who I am. And when I try to act like a dude, I feel uncomfortable. I don't feel like I'm being myself. So like I hate when I hear people, especially like when I hear people like dragging like the housewives gays, that wear the heels or the pumps or the purse. Like some people are actually just naturally feminine beings. They're not putting on a show. They're not putting on a front. That's genuinely who they are. That's them. That's what I would love masculine people across the board to know and understand that oftentimes being feminine is not a choice. It's just who you are.
So how do you stay safe on the street?
You know what's so crazy? Like, considering I have, been a victim of a sexual crime, I'm not a scary person. Like, I'm the person that I've gone to the DR, like third world countries, and walked by myself gay as hell and not afraid. I live downtown LA where everybody's like, oh, you live downtown. It's great. Aren't you scared? No, I don't, maybe because I know I got God with me, but like, I don't really, I mean, of course, if I want to make a guy feel special, I'd be like, oh, can you walk me home? Because it's so late at night. But my ass don't, that's because I want to spend more time with the person. Like, I'm not scared of anything. So I don't know. I think that thoughts become things, and I try not to live my life in a thought process of me being harmed or hurt. I'm smart. I don't do stupid stuff either. But like I am definitely very smart. But like I've never been a person that's like I'm afraid to like go walk in this area. But I'm also not gonna be the person that if I am, walking home late at night, I'm not going down the dark alley shortcut. I'm gonna definitely make sure I stay on well lit streets or whatnot. But I've never been a person that's very, very scary in that sense. And then also, there's nothing wrong with having a little protection on you. And based on where you live, you decide what that protection is.